What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? We have we have an an MMA. Yes, and we have an MMA video today. So these are MMA slams that ended careers. I want to see something that will make me go, yo, that's wild. That's all.
These are the slam KOs that defied the very laws of physics. 20 of the greatest slam knockouts in MMA history. And we're coming in first with a pretty wild display of physical prowess as Galore Bufando absolutely decimated Charlie Ward. Pound man
Yo!
right there who was somehow
That punch was devious. He wanted to kill him. Did you see that punch? Look at this punch. Look at this punch. The punch that he's coming to throw right now. That's a wicked punch.
pound man right there who was somehow cutting down to welterweight. Even worse was this nasty show of physicality from the legendary Frank Shamrock. A man who has been unfairly scrubbed from the pages of UFC history due to a public falling out with Dana White.
Frank Shamrock is an irrelevant jackass, okay?
But this rapid slam KO of Igor Zinoviv does a good job at showcasing this man's clear talents. Frank damn near called his own stoppage on that one, and it was obvious that Igor was done. Not all slams are built equal, though, and for this one, you can't really give too much credit to Valenko Vitali.
Oh, anyway, they can go down, and he does, and it's over. And it's all over.
Sure, he put himself in the
All he
right
had to
position
do was fall on
capitalize
him.
when Matt Lindland went for an ill-advised takedown. But what really happened here was Lindland totally misjudged the situation. And as soon as his head hit the canvas, even Joe Rogan sitting cage side knew he wasn't going to survive an impact like that. A self-administered slam KO, but a slam KO nonetheless. But don't worry, we're going to turn the heat back up with this next one. Because let's be real, Justin Gaethje was known for this exact technique during his earlier years. In fact, that's the reason he got his nickname, The Highlight, in the first place. And this slam KO from the amateur scene is classic Gaethje through and through. Sure, he doesn't do them half as much these days.
Why would you climb your opponent? Why would you go as far to be on his neck? To be on his shoulders? Bro, what's up? Is this a fight or is he licking your through? What is?
But the dude certainly has a track record, that's for sure. While we're on the subject of track records, though, is there a more famous slam artist in MMA than Matt Hughes? Well, there might be a vote in there for Rampage Jackson, but we'll get to him later. For now, this vintage violence from the longtime welterweight champion is just about as iconic a slam KO as you'll ever find. It's almost as if Carlos Newton knew exactly what was coming and basically accepted his fate totally helpless. It's a terrifying thought, right? But sometimes the very worst slams come totally against the fight's momentum. Thug Rose Namajunas is undeniably a great fighter, but she's also had some very strange moments in the cage. And having a highly dominant and impressive performance ruined by one moment of pure excellence from Jessica Andrade, yeah, that totally fits Rose's billing. Andrade is a physical specimen that has no equal in women's MMA. If you know anything about Rustin Kabalov, you'll know that he loves nothing more than hitting a suplex on his opponents. And sometimes one isn't enough. This dude will literally go back to this technique again and again if the opportunity strikes. And here he got the perfect angle against Vince Pichel, hitting multiple suplexes, with the third and final one causing his opponent to land on his head. It's a mean way to finish a fight, don't you think? As far as fighters who have a reputation for slamming their adversaries, how about Gerald Harris, who makes his first appearance on this list with a brutal KO of David Branch that just seemed to knock the life out of the middleweight upon impact. You've got to be insanely strong to pull off a move like this. But as we hinted, this isn't Gerald Harris's sole appearance on our list. Oh no. Next up, we're going to take a break from the brutality of it all to bring you one of the most awkward moments in UFC history. Gray Maynard has just managed to secure himself a TKO victory by slamming Rob Emerson to the mat with tremendous force. The problem? Well, he also KO'd himself in the process. And in the post-fight interview, Joe Rogan just wouldn't let it slide. And things got painfully awkward from there.
Hit him with some big shots and a vicious takedown. Now in the takedown, right after the takedown, he tapped, but you were unconscious. You knocked yourself out. Look at the replay. You're totally unconscious.
Who needs needs defensive fundamentals when you can just do this to your opponent? Despite the danger that was presented in the form of the triangle
That's
choke,
wicked.
rapidly coming closer to completion, this dude decided enough was enough and got out of this submission the old-fashioned way. You can't argue with those results, folks. There's a certain amount of risk involved with trying to force your way out of the sub, but here's another example where a fighter went from nearly losing to separating his opponent from the consciousness. It's one thing to use a slam to escape from an armbar, but when you actually find yourself winning the fight just a second or two later, yeah, that's some efficient fighting right there. Sure, he makes us all crack up these days for the wrong reasons, but Tito Ortiz was nothing short of an absolute killer in his prime. And it didn't take long for him to dispatch the great Evan Tanner with a huge early slam to seal the deal. That's no chump either. Tanner was very much a championship fighter in his own right. At his peak, Tito had a lot going for him, no doubt about that. Look, watching your opponent celebrating after they just beat you is always going to be tough. But when you sign on the dotted line to fight Jordan Levitt and then he slam KOs you before busting out a weird little dance and does the splits, that's gotta hurt a little bit more, right? The bantamweight veteran Eddie Wineland had to think fast when the WEC opponent had him in a pretty tough position, threatening to sub up against the cage. Wineland, in a moment of pure inspiration, decided to use his opponent's ingenuity against him, slamming that poor soul straight back down to the canvas with some serious force behind it. No getting back up from that one. We've seen a lot of great stuff already, right? Well, this next slam KO is without question the weirdest of the lot. Even weirder than Andrade versus Thug Rose.
Yo, this is wild. I don't know. I can't react because it's fast. That's why I'm not talking much in this reaction. But I'm watching it with you. We are all watching it together. There's nothing to say. They are just slamming people into the ground, bro. Why would you choose a career like this? This is wickedness. That's a human
Not
being.
only did this huge moment come totally against the run of the fight's momentum, but this wild attempt at grounding his opponent came in the most awkward-looking position imaginable. It was like a reverse suplex, but with your back to your target. Yeah, we're not even gonna try and name this one. A crazy, crazy finish. There's just something about elbows as a follow-up shot to a slam KO that always makes the whole thing look more brutal. And for this finish, while the execution was perfect on the slam itself, the elbows that sealed the deal were once again very clearly showing that Jorge Masvidal super necessary line. Hey, what do you know? We have more Rustam Khabilov after all. Remember how we mentioned that this dude just loves suplexing his opponents? Well, this wasn't a habit he picked up in the UFC. Nah, he's been doing this for as long as he's been fighting. And he doesn't waste a lot of time either. Khabilov wasn't getting paid by the minute for this fight, and his quick transition to his favorite technique proved that he had zero time to waste here. And while we're at it, we'll bring back Gerald Harris for what promises to be a very painful round too. Some guys take slam opportunities because they're given to them. Other guys go out there and make it happen. And Gerald Harris strikes us as the type of guy who knows what he wants from a cage fight. And in this highlight reel moment, man, did he get more than he had hoped for. If it weren't for our first pick, we might have been forced to call this the most brutal MMA slam of them all. But hey, a runner-up medal ain't bad. But here we are at the end of the video with a list of slams that were in no particular order. However, with that being said, it just feels right to end with Quinton Rampage Jackson and the most famous slam in mixed martial history. Jackson, in his prime, was a man of tremendous physical gifts, and no fighter was forced to contend with that more than Ricardo Arona. Yeah, this was the Pride KO you showed your friends who were new to MMA. A shocking display of raw physicality from
Wickedness. This is just wickedness. What? There's nothing to see, bro. Just, subscribe.